Hey guys, and welcome back to the Movie-Club Emporium. Uh, and again, make sure I'm gonna say it up front this time. I'm gonna mix things up. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like the video. Um, and share us around. The end of this month, Nick and I are going to be on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/the Movie-Club Emporium, and we're going to be talking about the greatest and worst horror remakes, part 1. And so you are not going to want to miss that. Now, on with our today's review as we continue the summer block party and this year's theme of Staycation 2025. We've been out hanging out with friends. We've been in the water. Now we're going to know why we don't go to camp. Camp's dangerous. There are bugs there. You're in the woods. There's ticks. There are madmen. And that's why we're talking about Madman from 1981. Written and directed by Joe Giannioni. There's no way I said that right, but we're going to go with it. Starring Galen Ross from Dawn of the Dead. This movie is weird because this is the ugly stepsister of a very famous horror slasher. This came out the exact same year as The Burning. Which, if you're into horror films, you know The Burning. It's usually beloved by most horror fans. I'm not gonna lie to you, though. I kind of like this one better. But both are based on the legend of Cropsey. And no, not that documentary that you think is going to be about the story of Cropsey and turns out to be about a guy who was being nasty to special needs kids in like the 70s in New Jersey or whatever that documentary is about. That's a weird. Nick and I have a story about. Hey, it's 2:00 in the morning. We're hanging out. You want to watch this documentary about Cropsey? Oh, you mean like the burning Cropsey? Hell yeah, let's watch it. And then you get this true crime story about this guy doing this stuff, living out in the woods outside of an old abandoned sanitarium, and you're like, nope, this is not what I signed up for. Don't call your movie Cropsey. Rant over. Now let's get into this movie. This is not a documentary. This is they changed the name of Cropsey to Mad Man Mars, who is this big, goofy looking man he's goofy looking. He looks fantastic. He's wearing these giant fake hobbit feet. Mwah. Just traipsing around the woods. And the only way he disposes of people is he either hangs them or decapitates them. However, this movie still delivers on a lot of fun kills. I think the reason I enjoy this one more is I have this weird thing in my brain, I guess, where if I'm watching a movie, especially a horror movie, revolving around summer camp, the idea of summer camp in like the 70s and 80s, it's gotta be sleazy. Like, sleepaway camp is sleazy. The first Friday in many ways is kind of sleazy. This one is that. It looks down and dirty. It is not polished. But also I kind of like the characters in this movie a little more than I do like the characters in The Burning. I'm not going to compare and contrast them. But I do like the characters a little bit more in this one. And again, it's a little dirtier, a little grimier. But it does have a lot of fun kills. There is a scene in not the middle of the movie, but a little past the beginning, which I believe was the only moment Amber looked up from her computer to see what I was watching. And it's this weird scene of like the prelude to a love scene in a hot tub, which sounds absolutely awful. And it's Galen Ross and this guy who sings not one, not two, but three complete songs in the movie. In fact, we'll get to the first song in a minute. But he's singing this weird love song now, and they're like weirdly like slowly rotating around the edge of this hot tub, like you're stirring pasta. And, and it's the only time Amber looks up, and it's a real like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Slasher movie," but I know this looks ridiculous. But no, the movie starts with this weird like. Frankly, it looks like a title sequence that we would have created for one of our movies in high school. To this weird like, what if it only described this opening music is if like John Carpenter was like, I'm still gonna write synth music, but it's only gonna be like Kentucky bluegrass, and it's kind of incredible. And then we see these kids around a campfire and the counselors, and the camp director who kind of looks like Larry Fezzen. And this guy's like walking around the campfire singing exposition, the story of Madman Mars, like in a song, which is kind of hilarious. And then there's a song, a full on like Madman Mars song at the end of the movie for the credits. Um, Again, I won't go through this like death by death. It's a slasher film from the 80s. There are some fun ones. There's some that are kind of goofy. The movie has a goofy ending, except that it ends a lot more darker than I thought it did. It totally sets up for a sequel that never happened. um, but let's just say that characters you absolutely, without a doubt in your mind going into it, know are going to be the final characters. Maybe not. Um, no, I love this because this definitely feels like a movie that this would have been a movie that I would have like snuck awake on a late Saturday night and sat like really close to the TV and watched them on Monster Vision, uh, on TNT way back in the day, and that's kind of again adds to the charm of it. Except this time I watched it on the Vinegar Syndrome 4K, so I watched this sleazy, gross, uh, like dirty looking slasher film in like the most pristine format possible, and it looks great. But I would say give it a shot. There's also a documentary I need to watch about the making of it. That sounds a lot of fun. But if you're somebody who enjoys horror movies, especially if you enjoy like the slasher genre, there's a new slasher like In Search of documentary coming out about the slasher genre. I guarantee this one doesn't get talked about ever, so it is a fun one to check out. I would honestly, not that I do many double feature recommendations. Watch this with the one Slaughterhouse, which is the one I did watch on Joe Bob. It's a lot of fun, and give Ole Mad Man Mars his flowers. We've talked a lot about Cropsy. Let's give it to Ole Mad Man Mars. But if nothing else, do you want to get your head taken off by the hood of a car or put on a meat hook? No, you don't. And that's why you don't go to summer camp, because it's guaranteed to happen. Happens all the time. I went to summer camp. It happened to me. So you just want to avoid the place. Plus, you gotta like it's hot. You're always at summer camp at your most awkward years. Depending on what decade you're going, either your shorts are too short or they're too long, and it's just not fun. Sleeping in a cabin with like 20 other dudes or ladies. Um, you know, it's not fun. A sleeping bag? Are you kidding me? And 95% humidity? Get out of here. But next week, we're going to learn about the dangers of cross-country travel. Because while on the first episode of this month where I talked about how much I love a gross-looking 90s RV, we're going back to the 70s, baby, and looking at some RV travel there. Not only that, but we're on the run from Satanists. So join me next week as we talk about Race with the Devil, and why you shouldn't go on RV trips. Shouldn't. You can't park them anywhere. They're too big. But you know what? You should do. Again, like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. And then join me next week for Race with the Devil. And I will see you guys next week.